What's going on, Falcon fans? This is your boy Ricardo coming back at you with another video. So today we're gonna talk about these Atlanta Falcons. We're gonna talk about these Atlanta Falcons, guys, and the moves they made. It's a new league year. It's time to go ahead and move on to the 2026 Atlanta Falcons. We're gonna talk about the thoughts that we have on these Atlanta Falcons moving forward. Um, We'll talk about the Kirk Cousin officially being let go. Um, talk about players added today. That agreed today. We'll talk about another player that we lost, which was played a big role for Atlanta Falcons in the last 3 years, and then we're going to talk about the new regime strategy, and how is it work and what we're looking like and what we're planning on be looking like moving forward. And then, at last but not least, we're going to get another James Pierce Jr. update where it keeps getting worse and worse for the young man. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please, you know, share and like and put this stuff throughout the YouTube universe. Um, and then let me know what you think when I come talk about that's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So guys, first of all, let's go on and get to the news that we all is aware of, and we know it was going to take place, but it's finally official today. And Kirk Cousin release is official. Um, it's a designated post June 1 cut. Atlanta Falcons say about $2 million on that release. They're going to get about $22 million of dead cap in this year and next year's um, season. So they have that dead cap on the book for the next 2 years. They by by designated post June 1 cut, they actually able to move that cap space and spread it out over 2 years. So that's the reason why they was able to designate it as a post June 1 cut. And also that's the reason why, we have to tip our hat out to Kirk Cousins because he was able to agree to, us restructuring his deal, and it allowed us to cut him, and it gave us a little cap savings going into 2026. You know, Kirk Cousins was here for 2 seasons, had um, I think 12 wins, 10 losses, something like that. Um, so it was not a success at all, and now you see the remnants of it. Of you see the new regime coming in and trying to fix some of the stuff that um, took place during the last regime's tenure. Now, when I go back and look at the video, um, a couple of seasons ago on draft night when they drafted Michael Penix, and my quietness that I had for like 5 minutes, it's I'm back to I was justified because it just didn't make any sense to pay Kirk Cousins $180 million, and then 4 months, not even 4 months later, 3 months later, you go ahead and you draft Michael Penix Jr. number 8th overall. It just didn't make sense. You put a lot of money in the quarterback position, and it's not the Michael Penix piece. It's the fact that you paid Kirk Cousins that much money, and coming off an Achilles injury, and I applauded it. Don't get me wrong, I did applaud the Kirk Cousins signings when they did it because I thought he was a solid quarterback. That somebody that was going to be steady, was not going to make mistakes, and put around the talent that we had, and we'll be able to get into the playoffs. You know, now it started off well, 6-3 through 9 games. Um, you go back to the New Orleans games when supposedly he got hit on his elbow, and then he went downhill from there. The next 4-5 games that he played, he threw 9 interceptions, 1 touchdown during that. And that was the pretty much the end of Kirk Cousins' career here in Atlanta. Um, but when you look back on it, it just didn't work out, and it was it was just now when you look back on it, just not a good idea. It just didn't make sense. That's why everybody killed it. You know, throughout the national media, the fan base, we all didn't understand. Eventually we got on board because it's our team, it's our fandom. We start to come, to come around to it, but it just did not pan out. Now we're in a situation where the number you picked that number 8, you had a extensive injury history, and then lo and behold, he takes an injury last year, and now we don't know his timetable will be back. It seems like he's going to be back before time, but this new regime coming in, anything that they do now is probably trying to make decisions to get Atlanta Falcons back on track. I know a lot of fans upset about some of the moves that are being made. We're gonna talk about the moves. Personally, for me, I like the move. We're definitely gonna get into those today. But at the same time, you got to try to fix. You know, it's a little thing like I'm gonna put in a memorandum to the record, right? Put a memorandum to the record in, like before this date, all that stuff that's on the books. It ain't my fault, right? I wasn't here during that time, right? So now you can blame me for everything else moving forward, but what's on the books before I got here, put that memorandum to the record in. It ain't my fault. So, right? Now if it's good, I'll be like, yeah, we did a good job. But if it's bad, I'm writing that down. Say no, that's not me. That's not me. That's not me. That's not me. Right. So pretty much that's how you look at it with the Kirk Cousins signing. But he's official. The other two guys that they had released, Cardell Hodge and Darnell Mooney, those guys were released prior to today. So that's why that we didn't get a recent. We actually got news on those guys actually on Monday about their release, right? Because they did those before post June 1, so they went on to release those guys before the new league year. They didn't have to wait on those, but they wanted to. Um, they had to wait to release Kirk Cousins and designate him as a post June 1 cut. So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think about that. Let's get into some of these comments before we keep going. Um, it says nothing splashy, but we get in depth. Right. We're gonna talk about these moves in a minute. He say JJ making it work for them boys. We went 4 picks to 9 now. Take note of the new Falcons regime. Yep, we're gonna talk about this new strategy. What's happening, Ricondo? And what's we got this? Off-topic base reports the Falcons should James Pierce Jr. get worse day by day. Yeah, we're going to talk about James Pierce at the end. I'm trying to say the bad stuff to the last. So appreciate for throwing that in. Ian has been cooking. He's getting all these Bulldog players from Georgia. I like that Bulldog player Aziz. He's the same size as James Pierce Jr., just a little shorter. We want to talk about Aziz Azulur. I hope Tua starts week 1. We'll see. We'll definitely see. It's supposed to be, a quarterback competition. That's what's been reported anyway. All right, let's get into the players that was added today for our Atlanta Falcons. So, um, just like a lot of guys been talking on here, before the Atlanta Falcons are finally, guys, believe it or not, signing some Georgia Bulldogs. Remember the last regime never really bring Brown Bulldogs in for some reason, you know, um, and and look like Ian Cunningham is kind of going back and looking at that 3-year run that the Georgia Bulldogs had. Um, with that outstanding defense, and he's plucking guys directly from that from those teams, right? Um, it was reported that the Atlanta Falcons brought in free agent edge Aziz Ojulari. If you guys remember, he was with the New York Giants a couple of years ago, and we thought when the Atlanta Falcons were going to try to go get some edge help, they was going to actually trade for him. They did not do that. Of course, he went to the Eagles, but it was a guy that had a lot of potential. He's a top 50 pick in the NFL draft. Um, the length of his arm. And if you're going to notice, you look at a lot of these guys that the Atlanta Falcons bring in, and if you remember listening to what Jeff Ulbrich talks about, the kind of guys he liked to build around, those guys with the length of their arms, right? Especially when you got edge rushers, right? Because it's talk about the reach, being able to, you know, get up on the tackles and stuff, and being able to utilize your bull rush, moves, swim moves, and things like that to be able to get off those big offensive linemen. So Azeez Ojulari coming in, I think this is a good signing because it actually gives him insurance about what's going to happen with James Pierce Jr. Right. Um, I don't think it's enough though. Definitely got to see if they're going to bring some more people in for pass rush because we remember we lost Armor Ebert Katie and we lost Leonard Floyd as well. So both of those guys are not part of this, you know, this rotation right now. And then you look at Braylon Trice coming back off injury. Got Jalen, that leaves you with Jalen Walker, right? So they definitely still need to add to this pass rush room, but this is a start. Like I said, this is insurance for James Pierce Jr., especially, as news come out about his situation, it definitely seems like um, he might not be here. So we just have to wait to see the outcome of that. But bringing in Azeez is going to be really good. Bringing back Bulldogs home, bring these guys back and see if they could, strike up some of that magic they had during their national championship run. The Atlanta Falcons also signed Channing Tindall, another Georgia Bulldog. He played on the other side of Nakobe Dean. If you go back and look at some of those highlights for those, this guy is speed, 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 speed. And we talking about speed. If you look at the the linebackers that's currently on the Atlanta Falcons roster right now. You got Devon Diablo, who ran a 4.4 um, at the combine. You got Harris. We talked about Harris signing him. He runs a 4.4 as well. Channing Tindall is another guy that runs a 4.4. And then, of course, we got Troy Anderson, who's coming back, running a 4.4. All those guys are fast, right? And if you go back and look at how Jeff Ulbrich want to play. He want guys that be able to go from sideline to sideline, right? Rangy, long arm guys that could brush the passer. This is the kind of the linebacker core that we got right now, right? So this is adding depth to that linebacker room. I thought this was one of the needs for the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, we did lose Kay Nevis. We're going to talk about him in just a minute, but bringing in more depth to this linebacker room is huge. And the prototype of the guys they're bringing in is huge as well. Guys that's rangy, that should be able to cover with their speed. Tyndall, Troy Anderson, Harris, and Diablo. All those guys are long and fast, right? And we should be able to read and react, utilize your speed, sideline to sideline. I like all these pickups they have made so far from the linebacker position. The next guy they brought in that agreed to a deal was defensive lineman Chris Williams. This is a depth rotation guy from the Chicago Bears D lineman. This guy is 6'2", 300 pounds. Played about 30 games for Chicago over the last 2 seasons. About 4 sacks during that time. But this is a guy that can eat up blocks. This will allow some of those linebackers, those fast linebackers that is going to be able playing behind him, to come up and make plays, right? Because you want somebody that's this big, but this is a depth piece, right? This is probably fill in for losing out on the Contavious Street. Actually, it can look like Contavious Street with the Chicago Bears. So it's like we kind of swap, rotational defensive tackles between Chicago and Atlanta Falcons. Because Contavious Street signed a contract with the Bears, and Chris Williams signed a contract with the Atlanta Falcons. So kudos to him coming in. This is another guy that's going to be a depth piece for the Atlanta Falcons. And we was wondering where we were going to start to get some trench guys, at the defensive front. and he's the first guy that they decide to bring in. Going over to the offensive side of the ball, um, the Atlanta Falcons are signing center Corey Levin to a 1 year deal. Levin is from Georgia, right? And he worked on the O line with guess who? Bill Callahan. And he was with Tennessee Titans. So bring somebody in that Bill Callahan is real familiar with. We only had one center on the roster, so it only makes sense to bring in some depth at that position. And you never know, might be competition for Ryan Newsel, right? He's a little bit bigger than Ryan Newsel. We know Ryan Newsel is a smaller, really, really athletic center. But if you know anything about Kevin Stefanski offensive line, a lot of those guys are huge, right? And Bill Callahan, they might like bigger offensive linemen. So we definitely have to look at that and see if it's going to be in the competition. But either way, you're adding depth to the center, bringing another center in. That's going to be really, really good for the Atlanta Falcons. So trenches. That's one of the things they talked about. Um, so far, you're looking at most of the guys they signed didn't have a lot to do with the trenches, and a lot of people starting to get worried, including myself, about that. But bringing in Corey Levin is going to be huge, right? So if you go back and look at some of the moves we made so far, Days of Kids, Jadon Dotson, Austin Hooper, Edge Cameron Thomas, punter Jake Bailey, kicker Nick Folk, right? Um, Center Corey Levin, Aziz Ojolore, Channing Tindall, and Chris Williams. That was who they got. Also, remember we brought back Troy Anderson. We brought him back into the fold, right? That's the moves they make so far. We're going to talk about their strategy and what I think about it, but those are a lot of moves, and it's a lot of depth added to this Atlanta Falcons team, right? Um, don't think they're done. I think they're going to definitely be able to make some more moves. Um, they were able to restructure Jake Matthews' contract today as well. We're treated about $14 million in cap space, so that's going to be big for the Atlanta Falcons to take that and be able to sign some more people. They added a void year to Jake Matthews' career. We all know that Jake Matthews is definitely getting up long in the tooth, but if you know that bloodline, they played for a long time. So um, Jake Matthews has been steady. Iron Man has never missed a game in his career, which is just amazing in itself. Even after injury, he was able to come back and play on that ankle last year. So um, Jake Matthews is an Iron Man. No, not a perennial All Pro, anything like that, but just a constant pro, able to be steady and being that left tackle for Atlanta Falcons. Right, he's the only player left on the Atlanta Falcons from the 2000 Bowl. Right, so and that says about what you can think about Jake Matthews. All right, let's get into some of these comments. Before we go, Eddie says, I'm a diehard dog fan, but at one point, the majority of the D line guys don't excel at a high level in the NFL because defensive fits. These guys, the Falcons, are getting a rotation depth week to week. That's what I said. That's what I said. They're not getting guys that they want to be perimeter starters. They're getting guys to add to their room depth, right? That's and if you look at a lot of teams in the NFL, they got 22 good guys, but they don't have no depth. That's what we had with Atlanta Falcons for the last couple of years, right? But being able to add depth is huge, right? If you recall last year when Diablo went out, the defense suffered big time, right? This way you'd be able to add players in. You won't have to bring a guy like JD Bertrand in that's probably only should be a special team player, but he had to play huge minutes for the Atlanta Falcons because they didn't have nobody else at the linebacker position. So depth is huge for the Atlanta Falcons. Um, but it does add some coverage. And I agree, I can't provide any details further because of what they're doing. Yep. Chris Williams is a younger Grady. I don't know about all that, but we'll see what he was able to do. Right, he's a depth piece. right? They have not signed anybody that was like, man, he was a dog last year starter. So we can't not, you know, look at these positions and be like, yeah, that's going to be our starter going into next season, right? So that's the way I look at these signings so far. But it's a lot of depth, right? And now you're looking at linebacker room and you be like, okay, it's deep, right? Um, and if you add Chris Williams to, Ruka, Brendan Dorless, Zach Harrison, that crew, right? That young nucleus that the Atlanta Falcons got, which we like all those guys, but we need to be able to add depth behind all those guys as well. So, um, and that's what they're able to do. Um, it's a long season though. Keep that in mind. Yes, that's why you're going to have guys. Corey Levin can play guard too. That what you want. That what you want. You want somebody to be able to play the interior offensive line position, guard and center, as a rotational piece. Um, Eddie says, my last note is that only signing guys because they can't get a contract they want elsewhere, or they just jump in the first thing smoking. Hopefully, it works. That's the way you look at it. I look at it a different way. We're gonna talk about their strategy in just a minute. They're planning on bringing in more guys on these no cost deals, but know that some will be cut during or after training camp, basically seeing who fit and play style. I can see that. I can see that. See which NFC South team is more threatening to the Falcons this season. Right off the bat, right now, I'm thinking about the Carolina Panthers, man. I really like what the Carolina Panthers able to do. Once free agency die down, we'll do an NFC South show, talk about the moves that they made. I usually like to make it, do that show right after the draft, but we'll do one before the draft and after the draft based off these free agency moves. So just stand by for that. All right. So we do got to talk about a player that we lost, um, Kay Nellis, right? Um, I'm not going to talk about Kay Nellis too long because, he's the enemy now. So we ain't giving him no praise. He made his choice. He go back to the Aints, do what you do, right? The only thing I can say is that he led the team in tackles the last 3 years. So the Atlanta Falcons is losing a guy that played a pivotal role for the Atlanta Falcons. You listen to the defensive coordinator; he definitely wanted him back. So this is not something that's that like not a big deal. The Atlanta Falcons really wanted some guys. I don't think actually they weren't gonna play that price. Let me take that back. But it is a loss for the Atlanta Falcons, so we don't want to act like it's not a loss. And currently, right now, if you look at the moves, did they really replace him? Maybe not. So that's the way you have to look at it. Um, so he's the enemy. So we're not rooting for him. We're not wishing him good luck. None of that crap, right? Going over there and get your money, man. That's all I got to say about Caden Ellis. And we're not going to talk about it too much more. All of them, all of them, if those lefty quarterbacks can't get together. What's funny? What's really funny about the left-handed quarterbacks? Um, we got like two of our other best players on the team is lefties too. Um, just 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 some trivia stuff here. Bijan Robinson and Drake London are also left-handed. It's just think about that. So Bijan Robinson and Drake London are also left-handed. So we got both our quarterbacks left-handed, and two of our best offensive players are left-handed as well. So maybe it's a left-handed thing, man. I think some other players on there is left-handed too. So believe it or not, um, the Atlanta Falcons got a lot of left-handed players. Left-handed guys too. They kind of quirky, right? Because the way they think and stuff. So that's one thing to think about that. All right, so what I want to talk about now, based off the moves they have made, since Monday and today, and this go ahead and say this because what we seen yesterday, A lot of these guys have not signed yet. They have made an agreement. Make sure they got to come in, take their physicals, right? Make sure they pass all their physicals before they get signed, right? So that's one of the things that we definitely got to mention because of like what happened to Max Crosby, right? So we just want to sit there and say, yeah, these are new Atlanta Falcons. No, they're not yet. They're not because tell you how you know um, when they're officially signed because you will actually see it posted on the Atlanta Falcons website. They will say we have signed this person. You notice if you go to their website now, they haven't mentioned any signings. Right, only person they mentioned is Troy Anderson, right? Because they restructured his contract. They mentioned Jake Matthews. They mentioned the release of Cordell Hodge and Darnell Mooney and Kirk Cousins. That's all they mentioned. So once they sign these guys, they'll put out a report saying they signed them, right? So, but right now, all these guys have had made an agreement. That's where we stand. We're just going to keep it at that, right? All right. But um, the new regime is in place, guys. It's here, um, and you can see their strategy at work, right? Um, if you can't see the forest for the trees, or how would they say it, right? Um, it's a big deal. If is Ian Cunningham vision. This is and I feel like it's a lot of what he wanted, right? So go back to his quote where he said that um he loved draft picks, right? He loved draft picks. That's what he wanted. Also, he mentioned during the combine that we will never be with 5 draft picks again. Reportedly, the Atlanta Falcons have already got 3 draft picks, right? And if people don't know how compensatory picks work. Um, They're determined by the factors that include players' salary on the new team, snaps played, and accolades, right? So basically what I'm saying, this is a guy you lose in free agency to. It can't be somebody you cut. It gotta be somebody you lose in free agency, right? Remember we lost 4 guys. Now the Jahan Dotson, he cancel out one of our compensatory picks because you look at the value what David Onyemata got based off what Jahan Dotson got, that's not gonna that kind of cancels out that pick, right? However, when you're looking at the other guys, the Tyler Algier, a a Caden Ellis, and the offer, right? Look at their contracts, and based off the guys that we have signed, right? Remember, the Atlanta Falcons have only signed guys to like 1 year deals, so the value of their contracts is nowhere equivalent of the offer, Kate Ellis, and Tyler Algier's contract. So they already pretty much going to be guaranteed compensatory picks because of the value. Remember, all these guys they lost in free agency, and they did not sign guys to equal or equivalent value based off the roster spots. So that's how compensatory picks work. Like I said, Jahan Dotson and David Onyemata cancel out, so that's why we don't have 4 picks, but we should get 3 based off the value of the guys they have signed so far. Now, if they go out and sign, you know, somebody to a bigger contract and like say Kate Ellis got, then we might go down to 2, right? So that's how it works. But right now, if you're looking at their strategy, what they're doing is basically signing guys to 1 year contracts and minimum deals, right? And it's pretty much creating that draft capital that Ian Cunningham wants for next year. Now we won't have a 7 round pick because we remember we traded for Jarrell from the Seattle Seahawks last year, but all the other picks that Atlanta Falcons should have in 2027 should be there, right? So don't want to make it seem like the Atlanta Falcons is just foregoing the 2026 season, but you can see when you're talking about building through the draft, this is how he wants to do it. He talked about trying to figure out a way to get more draft picks. We probably won't get any more this year, right? Because we really don't have any means to do that. Only means the Falcons would have to get draft picks this year is probably move back in the draft, and recoup more draft picks that way. But that you have to be sure that your draft board is solid. If you do move back, you're still going to get somebody that that you want, right? That that fit that best player available mold. But this is a strategy that they're doing. Um, it's kind of it's kind of like it's kind of smart in a way, right? Because remember I started the show when I talked about anything that happened before they got here. You can't blame them for none of that. So I know people say, well, we need to win this year. Why does the new regime need to win this year? Right? They just got here. Why does the new regime? Um, and they don't need to come in and be sorry. They need to be competitive. But why do the new regime need to win this year? They don't really, right? Because they're trying to fix stuff. And you can tell by the moves they're making. And you know, this is Ricondo's talking, right? I don't have no inside scoop or anything like this, but I would think that Arthur Blank would want to give them at least 2 years to see, let them clean up all this stuff that was left, residue that was left behind from the Terry Fontenot regime, and then, right, because you wanted him to take, the mess that he had. You got to think about it. These guys just got here the end of January, beginning of February, right? They really didn't have time to evaluate this roster like they should, to go out and make huge deals with players and don't really know what you got for your as on your team, right? That's why a lot of first year coaches get that time now. Some organizations have let coaches go after the first year, but Arthur Blank have never really did that. But I believe that if you look at how Ian Cunningham is coming in, and it's not sexy at all. Don't get me wrong, it's not sexy, right? You wanted to go out and make the pitches and stuff like that, but by doing it the way he's doing it, he's actually just building that draft capital that he want, and being able to pay the nucleus of players that he already have on the staff, like a Drake London, like right. If you don't give out huge contracts, you're able to pay your guys that is going to be here long term as well. So um, it's not what a lot of us want to hear. I still think the Atlanta Falcons can be competitive this year. I still think they can win the division, right? And that should be their focus. But at the same time, you want to not just mortgage the future for your first year in, because this team was so close, and you're trying to build off everything that you had last year. Like, so many people are so upset players, but those are the same players we didn't make to the playoffs with. So it's not like those players that we lost, had us, winning it all. We still, had laps and mistakes and things like that, and we was gonna pay all those guys to come back and pay them a exorbitant amount of money when the new regime really haven't had opportunity to to really look at his roster and see what his roster all about. So that's the way I'm looking at it. This is, like I said, once again, this is a Recondo opinion. It's also an article out there, um, and on Sports Illustrated talks about this whole compensatory pick thing that I'm talking about, and it kind of explains what kind of look at what he's trying to do, from building draft capital. But man, it's kind of ingenious to think about it, man. And you can see the depth they're adding, right? They're adding depth. Now they're going to add more depth, right? Probably in free agency, but they're going to add depth for young players in college as well. So it's going to be a young team for the Atlanta Falcons. Now a lot of people looking at Nick Folk, right? How old he is and stuff like that. But this team is going to be young, man. It's going to be a young team, a young up and coming team with really good pieces, right? You got a good three-headed monster on offense. We don't know what's going to happen with Kyle Pitts, right? About his contract, but he will be here this year along with Bijan, along with Drake, right? You bring in a solid number two in Jahan Dotson, right? You like that. Um, Austin Hooper is a solid tight end. You got a veteran offensive line. You just need solid quarterback play from either one of those guys, and then you might be able to do some things. So um, I love I love the way they doing it. Um, it's different. It's not what a lot of us expected, right? We thought, like we said, you add some pieces here, add some pieces there, and then this team can make a run. But basically, what you're asking Ian Cunningham to do, which you wouldn't be fair to him, is just take Terry Fontenot's team and add pieces to it and run it back, right? And that's not what they're doing. They're creating their own team, right? Um, they're keeping the pieces that they like, and they're finding pieces that fit what they want to do and how they want to build this team, and that's fair because it's a new regime, so it's not what we expected from this. Because that was the old team. That's what they had, right? And we all thought this, and I, including myself, I'm like, man, just add some pieces to it. But it looks like they're going the total opposite, right? We're not bringing all those old guys back, right? They don't fit what we're trying to do moving forward, right? We're not going to pay them. Now, if they want to come back on these 1 year deals, yeah, more power to them. But no, right? So you think about it. Army Ebiketie, right? He was a free agent. If Army Ebiketie signs a big deal, right? Multi-year deal, that's another pick, right? Think about it. So look at it like that. Look at it like that. We could bring back Army Ebiketie though. We could bring that because we do need pass rush help, especially with the James Pierce Jr. help. So we could bring back Leonard Floyd. Just add another Georgia boy, bring him back. Right? We could do that as well. So I'm not saying those guys not going to be back, but I'm just saying because we do need help in that position. So they definitely have opportunity to return. But um, that's their strategy. I'm interested to see what you guys think about that. Right? Are you pleased with that, or do you want them to go for the fences? Right? Um, but you can see it. I have not seen one contract except Jahan Dotson that was more than 1 year. Right? And then the punter and the kicker, right? Those guys sign more than 1 year contracts. But every other player that the Atlanta Falcons have signed has been to about 1 year deal. And that tells you a lot about what they're trying to do. So um, create depth, competition for 2026. That's it. They're not looking at these guys. Now these guys pan out and you know, really do some good things this year. They can definitely get a long-term deal, but none of these guys expected, to be the future Atlanta Falcon based off the contracts they decided to give them. So, and that says a lot. And he says, Dartmouth says, which NFC type? Oh, you already read that one. Oh, like I said, yep. So those are the ones I already read. But guys, it's an interesting look at what they're trying to do. Um, I'm really curious to see how this season will go. I think that the biggest answer is the quarterback position, and that's another reason as well too that you don't go all in 2026 because you don't know your quarterback situation 100%. Right? You brought in a really good deal with Tua Tagovailoa, bringing him in as on what for $1.3 million. That's a steal, man. I don't care what nobody say. Guy that has 75 starts in this league. Winning percentage. He actually got a winning percentage in Miami, right? Believe it or not, he does. Um, only issues is him and his buddy in the quarterback room. They injury prone, so that's that. That's one of the main issues we got with this team, right? But um, Tua Tagovailoa, if you get him, protection, um, to drop back and throw his precision passes. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks, to play the game. Then you got Michael Penix Jr. He's have all the traits that you want from a quarterback, but he got to start to be more consistent, um, be able to calm down, on pressure and things like that, and be able to read and react to the pressures. I think he needed to utilize his athletic ability more that he has at his disposal. Those are some of the things you think about when you think about Michael Penix Jr. But the biggest thing, and one of the biggest questions going into this season, is going to be the quarterback position. Um, it's reported that it's going to be a quarterback battle, which is fine, um, because Michael Penix is not proven, right? But you just hope that he gets a fair shot to compete, right? You don't want to say it's a competition, but he don't get the fair shot to compete. That's what you don't want, right? You want to be able to let both of those guys, go out, play with the ones, same minute snaps, all that stuff, and then let the chips fall where they may. But that's the way you want to see it done. That's a real competition, right? You don't want to put him out there with backup linemen and things like that. I.e., what happened with Shadur Sanders last year? That's not what you want to see. You want to see a real competition. And if Kevin Stefanski does that, right, then maybe the best man win. There you have it, right? But that's the new strategy for this regime. They're at work. They're constantly making moves. Definitely gonna make some more moves because they ain't really spent no money yet, and they don't picked up what 9 guys so far. Let's look at the count again. So I really have it down pack. Um, Tua Tagovailoa. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So you got 11 guys so far that they have signed. You add in Troy Anderson, that's 12, right? So that's 12 guys that the Atlanta Falcons have signed to a contract this off season so far, right? That's huge, right? Then you look at one of their guys they're hosting, um, and they're hosting this young man tomorrow, right? So they're hosting Memphis offensive tackle Travis Burke um, today and tomorrow. So he's going to actually be there. He's there today. And he's going to be there tomorrow as well. This guy is an offensive tackle. He is 6'9", guys. Big tackle, big tackle. You look at a guy like Trent Williams, right? Somebody huge like that coming in, being a tackle for you. Um, so you kind of foresee their vision, the philosophy, what they're trying to do, and um, this is gonna be huge. But he's coming in. He's 6'9", 315 pounds. Um, that is awesome, right? So they already started their 30 visits. Hopefully, we get an announcement of all the guys that come in with 30 visits. But I want to, highlight this guy even more. I'm gonna talk about him later on. But big guy, Travis Burke, um, from Memphis, right? So definitely a guy that potentially could be, on day 2 of the draft, and the Atlanta Falcons can, maybe pull it in. We talked about the trenches, right? The trenches just don't mean the defensive side of the ball. I mean offensive side of the ball as well, right? Even though we do have a veteran offensive line, you want to be able to create depth on the offensive line just as well as you want to create it on the defensive side of the ball. So um, it's huge for the Atlanta Falcons. All right. So guys, last but not least, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it because it just won't go away, and that's James Pierce Jr. update. So today, Rickard Jackson put a protected order out on James Pierce Jr. and quote, not 100% quote, but she basically said that she thought he was gonna kill her, so she wanted a protected order. That's not good, so obviously, the one incident that took place, in Miami with the car, it has to be more insistent for her to assume that the guy she thinking the guy is gonna kill her, right? And this is such a bad situation. This young lady was playing in Unrivaled. Um, she didn't play anymore this season in the league because of this. and then she also was part of, the initial USA women's team, um, and she did not get invited to do that as well. So, so a couple more players took some guys' place right at the last minute, and that's unfortunate. It really is, because this didn't have to happen. Um, and you think about it, this young lady, right now she's probably going through things emotionally and things like that. But at the same time, the young man just pretty much probably messed up his career, and it's sad, right? And like I said, carpe diem, man. You seize the moment, right, and then you have to live with the consequences when you do some stupid stuff, right? And this young man, the more and more you read about stuff, now you got Falcon fans like just kick him off the team and things like that. But this is a young man. This is young, and people make mistakes. So I'm not taking up for him. But what I'm saying is that you might want to get guy help, right, before you just let him out back to the world, and have all these anger issues and things like that, and then it probably could be worse for him. So you know being part of the NFL, they should do their due diligence and see if the young man gets the help. Now he had legal issues first, so whatever happened with his legal issues, that's going to happen. But for the NFL, they call themselves a big family. They probably should look out for the young man, make sure that he gets the help he needs, um, even if he don't play football anymore. Um, because that's what it is, man. Young people mess up all the time. I have seen situations where, we had young people that mess up, right? And before we put those people back out to the into society, into community, it's our job to make sure, we put them out with the help they needed before you put them back out there. So same thing for go for James Pierce Jr. Um, like I said, I'm not taking up for him because this whole situation is insane. What he did, I feel sorry for the young lady because she had to take a protective vow. But the more you read it, the worse it is. And go back to what happened after the Saints game, right in November when she had to call 911 a couple of times. So it's probably been happening more than we know, right? A lot more to the story than we know about what took place. And in this point in time, right, um, instead of him trying to play some football, it probably did get some help because obviously the red flags that they had on the young man coming into the draft, um, what got some validity to it now. If you look at what has transpired since he's been in the league, right? Jess was in the league over a year ago, and everybody was saying that he was dropping down draft board because of his personality, his attitude, and things like that. Now we can say that Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris did their due diligence. They actually went to the young man's house the night prior to the draft and talked to him and his mom, and and they probably promised the young man they was going to draft him, right? But they did not know that Jalen Walker was still going to be on the board at 15, right? And so they had to pull the trigger on him. But that's the reason why they came back into the draft in the first round because they probably had promised this young man that we're going to look out for you. We believe in you, and look what happened. Just look what happened, man. So you have to let the situation play out. But the more and more information we get about James Pierce Jr., the the worse it looks for him. Be honest with you, just don't look like you know um, he's going to come away with like a slap on the wrist. Does not look that way, right? And maybe he shouldn't, like I said, because if it's been going on this long, where the young man feels like he's going to kill her, right? That's not a good thing. So um, get the young man help, NFL, and then see what happens from that. That's all you can do. But the Atlanta Falcons, from a football standpoint, um, you see the sign they did today with Aziz trying to put some systems in place so they'll be able to sustain some of the stuff they had last year. Um, but There you go, guys. Let's see. T. Terry says JPJ is getting Miss Jackson ruined, letting Miss Jackson ruin his career. Yeah, man. He that boy Snap. He messed up. True. Um, she's dating a white rapper guy. It's more bad than JPJ. Should let it go. You should have let it go. Just let it go. Just like Elsa on the little cartoon. Let it go, let it go. Oh man, JPJ will get off the hook with nothing harsh in regards of her. Now that the thing is in the cops, it's different story. Even though his lawyer, who is really good, stated that he will get his client cleared. You, hey, you can say all that you want. The optics don't look good, right? Everything we're reading, we haven't read anything about her doing this and doing that. It's all been about him, right? And like I said, public opinion is a monster, right? And right now, public opinion saying that he's guilty as hell and that he's crazy, he's insane. That's basically because we haven't everything we read is like, damn man, what was going on, right? What was so intense that you know you won't just let it go. So um, they say, and his lawyer keeps saying his lawyer say a lot of sports athletes just saying real fucking cop. I'm not a cop. I mean, just because you got a good lawyer, don't mean that you can get away from. Like I said, you might be right, right? Because you know, let's be honest. He did have 10.5 sacks, and he's under the NFL shield. So we'll see, man. But no, we can't say this as we know of, right? He didn't do any bodily harm to her. I guess in a car that's bodily harm, but like we it's no reports about him hitting her or choking her or anything like that. It's no reports about that. That might be something you could say be his saving grace, right? Because there's no reports of that kind of stuff, right? That would be really really bad if like she had bruises and all that kind of stuff. It'd really be turn take a whole nother turn even more to the in the wrong direction, right? So we don't hear that. But I mean, just to just running around into a car, that's already considered assault with a weapon. So, but we'll have to just see what happens, man. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully, you know, both of these guys, both of these young people get their life back on track. Hopefully she can get past it, and then hopefully he can move on. Hopefully he can move on his career, right? Even if it's not with the Atlanta Falcons. So just throwing it out there. Says Gary Pierce Jr. must never been to Magic City. He was lost in love. I know, man. See, if they would have had Magic City night, he probably been good to go. Damn NBA. Um, Rasheed Rice didn't look good. Yep, Rasheed Rice. Rasheed Rice. When Rasheed Rice just hit somebody, he fled. Right. There wasn't nothing about no domestic dispute, and a woman saying that he thought he was gonna kill her. Right. This is it's not the same situation. This is not the same situation whatsoever. Right. Even though you can say he hurt somebody or something like this, like that's a hit and run. That's you know, but this is completely different. If you go back to the Ray Rice situation, right, and things like that, you can go back to look what happened to Chris Brown career when what happened with him and Rihanna. This is a different situation, completely different. Don't don't try to compare Rasheed Rice to this situation because it's not the same. It is not the same. Yep, you said Ray Rice. Antonio Brown, another crazy domestic. Just saying, yeah, what Antonio Brown did still don't compare to what this kid did. He hit her with his car, man. Like I'm just saying, though. Trust me, trust me. And, it's always two sides to a story, but we only hearing one side. That's all we hearing, one side. And the worse it get, the public opinion to get make it worse. If I were him, I would ask for a speedy trial to go on and get it over with. Especially if you feel like you're so innocent, get the shit over with. Because the more and more it lingers, the more and more information comes out that makes him look worse. It really does. Because we didn't know about the thing that happened in November after the Aints game, right? Then we didn't. Now we're hearing that she wanted to protect the order because she thought he was gonna kill her, right? Like it's just more and more information coming out and saying that it's get worse. It really is. He said, let's see here what T Terry says. Right was like Diddy kicking the girl in the hotel. Now he Rice he like literally knocked his wife out. She was out cold. But guess what? That's where they are. You know, their situation was totally different anyway because they fought all the time. She didn't even leave him. Like, you know, but he had to go get help. He apologized, things like that. But I can't remember. Did Ray Rice play in the league again? I don't think he did. I don't think Ray Rice played in the league. So he said AB strangled a woman for death. Did AB play in the league again? I don't know. Was that before the Me Too movement or after the Me Too movement? I don't know Ray. I don't know Antonio Brown's situation. I don't know it like that. I know the Ray Rice thing. Um, Obviously, Antonio Brown didn't get as much press as Ray Rice, right? And and why we know so much about James Pierce Jr. because guess what? Nobody, no national media team is talking about James Pierce Jr. situation. Nobody, right? And that's by design. It's by design, right? And what it's called is innocent until proven guilty, right? Because if they start to talk about this stuff and putting it out there for the national media to see it and talking about it like on, let's say, First Take, or even Shannon and Ocho talk about it on Nightcap, right? Those things, it'll get out. And like I said, reading this stuff, public opinion to get even worse for him. So they're waiting until this thing get resolved, and then once it get resolved, that's when you'll hear more information from the national media. Because right now you're not hearing anything from national media about this. Um, so guys, I did forget about a couple of players when I talked about. So I said 12, but if you want to add Natron Brooks, who actually was here last year, and then Elijah Garcia, both of those guys are back as well. So they was here last year, but so you want to add those guys in. There's 14 players that Atlanta Falcons have signed this offseason, though, right? So did want to throw that out there. Uh, Chad Johnson run his career over headbutting his lady. Yeah, but he bounced back though. He's doing good. He just ain't NFL no more. You correct? Yes, he did, but got cut. Yep. Mm-hmm. The new Falcon conduct policy is totally different now. Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I'm not even thinking about the NFL. I'm talking about the legal stuff because if he get out from the legal stuff, yeah, the NFL just gonna suspend him. That's all they're gonna do if he get off, right? If he get like a slap on the wrist from the legal standpoint, yeah, he's going to be good. But depending on what happened with him legally, that's what's going to determine, how harsh the NFL is going to be. Now, the NFL does not have to, you know, based solely off that. Because you look at Deshaun Watson, right? Deshaun Watson was not found guilty for anything, right? Now he did pay pay women in civil court, but legally, criminally, he didn't get, and he got 11 games. So, just saying, right? That public opinion will play a part in this, right? And that also goes to the organization how Arthur Blank handles it as well, right? Because public opinion, like I said, I read on my timeline now, and especially the female, um, you know, females want him. It's like he should be gone, right? 'Cause like I said, public opinion, right? And a lot of females um, are fans as well of your team. So you have to look at the public and look and see how it's going to factor in about you know seem like you're trying to protect somebody that's dangerous to a woman. So um, public opinion is a bitch. And like I said, from what I see on my timeline, a lot of females saying he need to go. Just being honest about it. Um, somebody gonna pay her money to recant? No, that's not gonna happen. She already filed a police protective report. I mean, put a protective order out on him. He is not. He's not gonna recant. He will get 6 game suspension regardless. Yeah, he'll at least get six. So, um, yeah. So, but but yeah, there you have it, guys. That's the James Pierce Jr. update. Eventually, we're gonna have to get over it about him, right? I think for me, I'm already past it. Like the kid need to get some help, man. Even if you know, because the crash out like that, that wasn't. He didn't have to do all that shit, right? I don't know what she did to him to do what he did. Like like dang, man, you weren't married. Your boyfriend and girlfriend. You a multi-millionaire, dude. Go find you somebody else, bro. Like, I don't understand what made him do that. But I'm taking back. I do understand. But but damn, bro. Come on, man. Could did better than that. But there you have it, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in today to Ricondo Real Falcon fan. Um, the new league year is here. The 2026 Atlanta Falcons is in your face. It will be a completely different team than it was last year, except for the the ones guys that we love, right? Our all our favorites, they still here, um, right? You look at the Jesse Bates, the AJ Terrells, the Xavier Watts, because he's our guy now. Billy Bowman is going to be back. You love what Brandon Artist was able to do. He had 8 sacks himself. Rook is coming around. Zach Harrison going to be back. He had 4.5 sacks before he went down. We get to finally get to see, hopefully, get to see what we're going to see out of Braylon Trice. Right. Let's see who else. Um, hopefully, we get to see Divine Diablo, take another step from what he was able to do last year. So those are familiar faces on the defense side of the ball. Of course, on the offense side of the ball, that offensive line, Caleb Gary will be back in the fold, right? So they will have their original, starting five all there, along with Chris Lindstrom, the All Pro, right? Matthew Bergeron, who's just the feisty and nasty as an offensive line we love. Mr. Iron Man himself, Jake Matthews. Then of course we got Bijan, Drake, and Kyle. Right. Um, there you have it, man. Right. This 2026 Falcons is taking shape. Got a long way to go for it to be completed. Right. Probably make some more deals here in free agency. We got a draft of 10. Right. And we got the undrafted free agents that's going to be signed. So it's a lot of moves to be made before the 2026 Atlanta Falcons roster is going to be finalized, right? So for everybody that's on pins and needles and already upset about the moves that's been made within the first 3 days, let's calm down a little bit and see how what the finished product will be going into training camp, right? That's what you want. Then you could have your thoughts, about how this thing is going to shape out, right? So there you have it. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you in another video. Peace.